And we're sitting down with author Ethan Kross, who's soon going to be up here with us in Northern Michigan for the National Writers Series. So, Ethan, before we get started and hear about you coming up here with us, tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, the short bio is I fell in love with psychology when I went to college. I took a class, my first intro class, and about halfway through the class, we got to the topic of introspection, turning your attention inward to solve problems. First thing I learned in that class was we human beings are really good problem solvers. We have this amazing brain that lets us do things like build spaceships and develop vaccines and all this other these wonderful sources of innovation. But that very same tool that we possess, this ability to turn our attention inward to work through a problem, is also one of our main weaknesses. Because often when we're struggling, we try to work through our problems using introspection, but we fail. We ruminate, we worry, we get lost in these thought loops. And a light bulb went off when I encountered those ideas, and I decided to devote my life to using the tools of science to figure out how do you help people work through their problems more effectively without getting stuck. Moved to the University of Michigan right out of graduate school, founded a lab here called the Michigan Emotion and Self-Control Lab, and been doing research in this space for about 16 or 17 years, depending on how you count.
Now, Ethan, this sounds like such important work. There's a lot of anger all over the country, regardless of who you ask or your beliefs. It seems to almost be palatable. How do you see this helping communities on almost a grand scale? Because not to give too much away from your books, but I'd love to hear maybe the thing that surprised you most in your research.
Well, one thing that I like to remind people, and I remind myself about this a lot, when we're talking about the challenge of managing our emotions and managing our emotional lives, this is an ancient question that we have been struggling with for likely as long as we've been roaming the planet. One of my favorite little factoids that I discovered when I was researching one of my books was I stumbled on the oldest surgical technique ever invented by humans. It was a technique called trephination. It came on the scene about 8 to 10,000 years ago, and what it involved doing is drilling holes in people's skulls. A little bit barbaric, or maybe a lot. One of the reasons why this technique was believed to be used was to let out the evil spirits that were causing our emotions to push us in directions that we didn't want to be pushed. First surgical technique ever invented was a technique that was in part used to help people manage their emotions. Fast forward several thousands of years to the late 1940s, there's another ginormous spike on the emotion regulation timeline. A Portuguese physician invents the lobotomy, right? You flip open your eyelid, poke a few holes in your frontal cortex, and the volume on our emotional reactions comes down. This sounds barbaric today, and it was a barbaric invention. And yet, at the time, not too long ago, it was perceived as such an advance that it was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Here is the really good news. I will not be talking about any such interventions when I come up to visit Northern Michigan to talk about emotion management. We've got a wonderful array of tools. Some of them are really simple to use. None of them are invasive in the way I've just described, but we don't do a great job of teaching people about what these science-based tools are. I think doing that has the potential to not only help ourselves manage our emotions, regardless of our political beliefs or religious affiliations, right? Our emotion dysregulation does not discriminate. It doesn't care what you look like, where you're from. We all experience these emotional hijackings at times. So I think the science can help people, but it also has broader implications to help our communities and the culture and really the world. And so I'm excited to just share what we've learned in that space.
And that is such important work, Ethan. So let's jump into logistics. When are you going to be up here with us, and how can our viewers come out to listen to some of this great work?
Well, I'm going to be up there Thursday evening. There's going to be a live event at the, I believe it's the Opera House. Is it the Traverse
City
City
Op,
Opera House?
yes, sir. City Opera
Um,
House. Beautiful
which
space.
Traverse City I've been to many times. One of my favorites. I have not been there, so I'm super excited to be there. I'll be in conversation with a partner, and we're going to be digging into all of this in a very accessible, lively, fun way. We'll be entertaining questions from audience members. So there are a couple of different ticket options. There are some seats still available, I believe, for a live group. There's also a virtual option. So come out. Would love to see you there. We'll be signing books after, and let's help me get word out about all this.
Let's talk about it. Ethan Kross, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. And make sure, viewers, they're heading to the City Opera House tomorrow to connect with Ethan for more information. We're going to make sure all the links you need to get your tickets. It's all going to be available after the show today over on 9and10news.com. Ethan, absolute pleasure, sir.
Likewise, take care and see you soon.
See you soon.